Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I come to you every Wednesday night with a free stamping class, and we usually make cards, sometimes a 3D project, and that's at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. All right, I think I'm good to go here. It looks like, oh no, I'm not seeing myself yet. Hang on. Just want to make sure I'm not wasting my time by talking and having nobody there. There we go. Okay. So let me turn the camera down, clear off a tiny bit of my mess anyway, and then we will get going. Oops, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay. I think we're looking good. All right, so let's make things a little bit bigger here so maybe I can see them. There we go. So this is me, 11 Lakes Stamper, and you are watching me now, whether you found me on purpose or by accident. Sometimes people find me by accident, although honestly, when I am combing through the web looking for things, I usually find something other than what I'm looking for. I had a feeling something seemed off balance here, but I don't know why. The leg on the tripod is as far out as it goes. It just looks like the whole thing wants to do something it's not supposed to do. Let's see if there's a way for me to fix that. Hang on just a second, if you will. I don't think... Oh, there we go. Okay, so now I can bring that up and then maybe it won't be tilting so much. I don't know. It's a little weird. It still seems very uneven. I don't know why. All right, well, we'll hope for the best and I'll try not to touch it too much and then we should be okay. So anyway, you are watching me on my public Facebook group, 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives on Facebook, and then you can also catch my videos on YouTube because, as I've mentioned to you before, Facebook will be and has been deleting Facebook Live photo videos, and it's something for regular folks to know too, because some of you do make Facebook Live videos of your own families, and you should know that they're not going to be there forever. It, as far as my understanding is, it does not just apply to creators and business people. It applies to anybody making Facebook Live videos. If I find out different, I will let you know. But if you are a person who has saved videos on Facebook, then I would ask you to go back and check and see if they're still there or not, because they are supposed to be going back and doing that. And if you post a new one, it's only going to be there for 30 days. Okay, so I'm 11 Lakes Stamper also on YouTube. And I make cards, home decor, scrapbook layouts, and more on my own, sort of, not having necessarily to do with Stampin' Up. I make journals, and I make zines, and I make mixed media art. And if anybody's interested in any of that, let me know. All right, you can shop with me at www.rcolasino.stampinup.net. And as long as we are speaking of shopping, I need to let you know, and I did post it as early this morning as I could, that today and tomorrow only, so October 22nd, which is today, depending on where you live, I suppose, and October through the 24th, so it's 3 days. So it's today, tomorrow, and the next day. Sorry, I kept thinking it was 2 days. So cross that out. Not today and tomorrow, only today, tomorrow, and let's see, today is Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, so through Friday, there we go, through Friday you can shop free shipping. Now, what makes free shipping so nice is that, people do kind of bark about the shipping. It's shipping, unless you have Amazon Prime, you pay shipping for almost everything. And then, of course, even with Amazon Prime, you pay for that too. So unless you do a whole lot of shopping on Amazon, that may not be a bargain. So you can get free shipping. You can also, in the month of October, get the starter kit. And it is, like I said, and other demonstrators have said, the absolute best startup special, joining special that we have seen in a long, long time. I can't remember in my time, at least as a demonstrator, ever seeing one this good. Now, they all have slightly different things. You know, sometimes they come with an item that's for free, like the mini Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine was free 1 year for joining. And when I joined, I got a set of the ink pads. So I got a set of 10 ink pads for free. But with this, you're getting $189 worth of product for $99. Or if you really don't think you need that much stuff, said no one ever, you can get $125 worth of products for $35, and the free shipping is always free on starter kits. So right now it happens to be free for those of us who have to pay shipping, and people have asked if demonstrators have to pay shipping, and yes, we do. We get a discount though, so if you become a demonstrator, you start out right away getting a 20% discount, and you can get as high as a 25% discount, which is a quarter off of what you buy. If you think about it that way, it's a pretty good deal. So we've had several people join up under this, so I have one new direct team member and 3 new indirect team members, which I just found out about. So if you're interested, please give me a call. It's absolutely as good a deal as it seems, and those ladies will tell you nobody has ever forced them to do anything. Only one of them that I know of, my new direct downline, has done classes before, small classes with a group of ladies that I think she might have been familiar with, and the others, as far as I know, have not done classes at all. And they just buy because they enjoy buying. And then once you buy the starter kit and you're told officially that you are a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, which, you know, if you'd signed up in the last couple of days, then you could get this free shipping as well, because the free shipping is always on the starter kit, but not on your orders after the starter kit. Okay, so as I posted today we are taking a look at the Snowy Delight bundle. And the Snowy Delight bundle, and not all bundles do this, the Snowy Delight bundle comes with dies. It comes with this really nice stamp set with some really nice sentiments, and it comes with the masks that I know my customers have really enjoyed. There are 4 masks, and we're going to play with those a little tonight as well. The dies, let's see, I think I've got those kind of scattered around because I'm using them, but there's a small sentiment die, and then there are these they look like asterisks, but obviously they're snowflakes, and I have not used those yet. And then there is this snowflake die here, and then there's this big one which will cut out this, no, I lied. There's this one here, and then there's this one, and then there's this big one which will also cut out this one, and will also cut out this stamp, right? This is the largest stamp in the stamp set. And if you create something, well, I can show you anyway now. So I did this just to kind of show you what it could look like if you use 2 different colors. So to create this, I used Highland Heather and Fresh Freesia. All right, and I started out with the lighter color. So I started out with Highland Heather and did masks number 1 and 2 in Highland Heather. And then I did, no, I lied, in Fresh Freesia. And then I did masks number 3 and 4 in Highland Heather. So you got that layered effect. And this die here will cut that out. And we're going to be doing a little bit of that today as well. All right. So they're really very neat dies. They do a lot of things. The stamps are kind of neat too. And I wanted to point something out because people are saying, well, this is a Christmas set. Well, it's snowflakes, which certainly is very often for Christmas. But aside from Joy to the World, on the bottom here, there is not a Christmas sentiment on here. There's a warm hello, Joy to the World, and then we have sending you joy and many delights, and then they have a winter wish for snowy delights. Those would be what we call outies. You would put those on the outside of the card, and then on the inside, either one of those could follow up with family, friends, and long, peaceful nights. So sending you joy and many delights with family, friends, and long, peaceful nights, or a winter wish for snowy delights with family, friends, and long, peaceful nights. And many of us who've been stamping a long time really appreciate a stamp set that has both an innie and an outie. All right, so no, we're not referring to belly buttons, just to be clear. All right, so let me show you one card that I pretty much started and almost finished, but I just wanted you to see it. All right, so that you could see the stamps. So for this card, and I have not assembled it yet, I took a 3 3/4 by 5 piece of basic white cardstock. I used this large stamp inked up in Misty Moonlight, and I stamped twice off of that. Excuse me. Then I took this smaller stamp and I inked it up with Misty Moonlight a couple of times and stamped it kind of off, and then inked it up with Gorgeous Grape and stamped it a few times, also kind of off. So there are hardly any. I think this one here and this one here are the only like complete images. And what I did here was I took some of the artist tape, and I have to have a thing about the artist tape. So my understanding is that the artist tape would be lower tack than the blue painter's tape and lower tack than the purple painter's tape. And I still found that I had to rub it off on my pants a little bit, and I still found in a couple of things that I did today, not on this particular card, no, I don't feel it on this one, but I found that it still tore the paper coming up if I wasn't really careful, or if I didn't get enough, lint on it. So still not the greatest. So Post-it note tape might be the absolute best for something like this, where you don't want to risk tearing your paper. So for this one, I used our blending brushes, and I inked them up in, let me see, what did I do? In Gorgeous Grape and Berry Burst. So I did most of it in Berry Burst first because it's the lighter color, and then went back in with the Gorgeous Grape and just kind of filled in some spots to kind of darken it up. And if I wanted to do a little bit more, I could still do that, but carefully because you don't want to go over the edges. All right, so I decided to put that on a Berry Burst layer that is 4 by 5 1/4. So we'll do that now. I always forget to unplug my glues before I come on the air, and then you just never know. Oh, look at that. I spoke, and it listened to me. I say, you never know if they're going to work or not. This one I think is getting empty as well. It's time for a refill. So Berry Burst and Gorgeous Grape. I think those are really cool combinations together. I don't know if the Stampin' Up! Color wheel agrees, yeah, because according to Stampin' Up! They're more of analogous, and I never say that word right, analogous colors. So maybe they're not necessarily meant to go together, but I like them. And since I put them together here and they blended well, it seemed like they would also blend well with the cardstock. So now this is just a regular card base that is 5 1/4, 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So actually, before you fold it in half, it is 11 folded in half and then cut at 4 1/4. So we'll go ahead and put that on. I could put some ribbon under this, and I could have made this smaller so the ribbon would show. You know, there are all kinds of things that you can do to zhuzh your cards up, so to speak. I had a coworker who liked to use the word zhuzh. In fact, she's the one I really learned the word from. I had never heard of it before. But we had the hardest time trying to figure out how to spell it, because we had the kind of students who wanted to know if that was a real word, how did you spell it? And we just kind of looked at each other like, don't know. And once in a while I'll see it in writing on a Stampin' Up! Website or some other crafting website, but I don't really see that it's spelled the same time more than once. And then here I just decided to use the large stamp, inked up once in Berry Burst and once in Misty Moonlight, and just did it twice in the corner, just for another, different kind of look on the inside, but it doesn't take up too much room, so you still have room to write a sentiment. I've started playing around with reels a little bit. And so some of the things that I prep ahead of time, like this one where I did the major part of the stamping and the blending on my own off camera, I might turn some of those into short reels so that you can see them. I feel like most of you know how to do that, but not everybody has experienced the blending brushes, so I don't want to make assumptions that everybody knows how to use them. All right, so there you go, and I think that's a very pretty card, and it most definitely does not have to be a Christmas card. I know I've said this before, my daughter's birthday is January 1st, so it could be a winter birthday card for her, and it could even be a New Year's card for that matter. Okay, so I went ahead and stamped ahead of time a few sentiments. Of course, I wasn't thinking about this card, so I did some in black and I did some in, what is that color? Cherry Cobbler, because we have a Cherry Cobbler card coming up. I also did not realize that at first I thought the only sentiment that would fit into this little oval was a warm hello, but the joy to the world fit in there quite nicely as well. It was tight, by all means, it was definitely tight, but it fit. So this one's red. I don't want a red one. Let's see. A winter wish. Okay. All right, so these two are black. A winter wish for snowy delights. And I think if I can pick it up, I think what I might want to do with this one, good grief, is just put this here. And if I had berry burst ribbon, and I don't think I do. I'm sure there was a berry burst ribbon at some time, or there is one, but if there is, I don't have it. So I'm just kind of looking around to see if I have a scrap of berry burst laying around, because then I could just sort of make a ribbon. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't remember ever seeing a berry burst ribbon, but like I said, I'm quite sure there is one. So let's see, berry burst or gorgeous grape, and I know there was a gorgeous grape ribbon at one time too, but oh, is this berry burst? Why did they look different? No, I guess they don't. Okay, so this is berry burst. So how about if we just took the mini trimmer? I'm going to go for long, even though I'm probably going to have to trim it. And sometimes we just take a bit off, like this is probably going to be about 1/2 inch, maybe. And I can glue that onto the back of this. Okay, and then I don't want to angle it the same way I did that. I think I just really want to trim it and have it go across the top layer. So let's see, hoping that I don't cut off too much. So there, yep, I actually want to cut off a tiny bit more. There, and where's my pencil? There it is. And just the other side of that pencil mark should make it just about right. Oh yeah, yep, it's just about right. And actually I could cut off a tiny bit more, and then I won't have to erase that itty bitty bit of pencil. There we go. And let's do some dimensionals. So I hope everyone had a good week. We've had this on again, like almost spring-like weather one day, and then very fall-like weather the next day here in the Finger Lakes. But that's kind of what life in the Finger Lakes is like, to be honest with you. You never know what you're going to get. I can remember having a kind of I think the term Friendsgiving didn't exist back then, but we had a Friendsgiving. There was a combination Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner with friends every year. And we hosted it at our house this one year. And it was after Thanksgiving, but before Christmas. And our kids were all outside in the driveway playing basketball. We had a basketball hoop in the driveway at the time. I think I'm going to put it as pretty much right in the middle, just because I want the other stuff showing. And did I get that straight? It looks like I did. So very pretty card. Berry Burst and Gorgeous Grape doing most of the work. And then there's the inside for that one. Okay, now this one, I'm going to demonstrate, but I want to use different colors this time. I tend to have a thing, I like purple snowflakes. I don't know why. And I know most people think of snowflakes as being blue. So I'm going to try some blue. I have Azure Afternoon here. I have a liner, and then I just need, it's so funny when you have all these things right in front of you and then they just disappear. Okay, I have some papers that instead of being 4 by 5 1/4 are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so they're a full sheet. And I like to do that when I think I might have to do some, well, I know I'll have to do some trimming. Okay, so here's where I need to be really careful with the artist's tape. And I have some here that I've been using on and off all day, and still it makes me a little nervous. So there's one piece. Where's the other one? Oh, here it is. And here's the other one, and I just put them on my pants again. And since I know I'm going to cut off a little bit, I'll put the tape right here on the top to hold that still. And then I will take, starting with mask number 1, I can see through this. So I think that I want to, hang on, I'm going to move that up a little bit so that you can see it better. Let's see, now I have to wait for the camera to catch up. Come on. Okay. Starting with mask number 1, I'm going to line it up with, well, maybe not with that line. Oh, okay. All right, I may have to pick it up a little bit so that I can line the top part or the mask up the way I want to, just to help me remember where it was. But once you start with the first, you can just match it by laying it over and seeing where it is. And if I want a sentiment at the bottom, let's say, then I'll move this up a little bit higher so I can stamp a sentiment on the bottom. I'm going to look to see if these two pieces are sort of equal distant from side to side, and I'm going to go from there. All right, so now what I want to do, I'll put that there for a second so it doesn't move, because I realized I needed to do something else too. I do want to take one little piece of tape and just hold the mask down with that so the mask is stuck to my glass mat. All right, oh, and I forgot something. Of course I did. Okay, so what I want to do now is block off where we're going to do our lines. And it doesn't have to be just in the center of your line. Okay, I got some fuzzy stuff here I want to get rid of. What is that? I don't know. So the other one that I made, it was pretty much in the center, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So we'll put that there. And I got some kind of schmutz there. I don't know what that is. No idea what that is, or why it's there, or where it came from. But it could be a problem, so let's try to get rid of it. Okay. All right, I hope that looks straight. I can never tell for sure. This side looks thinner than that side, but I wasn't too concerned about that, I don't think. All right, we'll go for it. If it's a little uneven, it's a little uneven. Okay, now, looking for my blending brushes, because I certainly don't want to use those purple ones again. So I've got a blue. And let's see, so I'm going to use Azure Afternoon and Blueberry Bushel. And Azure Afternoon is the lighter of the two, so I'll start with that. And then because this is a big blending brush, I still have to be careful to try not to go over the lines. And I also want to be careful not to have any of this ink go under the tape. So I will stamp off or rub off a little bit. And then I'm just going to start there. And then I'm going to add a little more kind of in the middle. And I will end up going over the whole thing lightly. And then a little bit down here. And then I'll just keep going back and building up. All right, like I said, since this is the lightest one, I can come in with the darker one and cover where I want to cover. maybe I can find a smaller brush for the darker one. Oh, no, I think I may have gone over there. Maybe not. I can't tell. But we're going to stamp those snowflakes on there, so if I have accidentally touched something or if something has gone under the tape, we should be able to fix that with the what am I trying to say? By stamping the snowflakes on it. Yep, that's what I was trying to say. All right. Okay, so let's not re-ink the brush and let's just kind of move down a little bit. I think I might be picking up a tiny bit of the purple paint, or the purple ink I've been painting this week, so I got paint on the brain, and I don't think that's going to matter too much. So now I'm going to come in with the Blueberry Bushel, which should appear much darker than the Azure Afternoon. And I think I will want to rub off a little bit on that one. And then maybe just like a corner over here. Some of this is going to get cut off anyway. Okay. And then what I may have to do to really distinguish the two, because they're kind of similar, I had thought about using Balmy Blue and I didn't, is just to distinguish them as being different. What I might have to do is really darken up the blue. So this is really just so that you can kind of get the idea for what I did there. Okay, and I don't know that I'll make this into an entire card, at least not right now. All right, so now I'm kind of cleaning this off, cleaning the brush off. I don't know if you can see me doing that, I'm off camera, but I'm just rubbing it pretty briskly on a piece of scrap paper. And then I'm hoping to go back in with the Azure Afternoon lightly and hit those other areas, just so that there's no white showing, but so that you see the two-tone effect. And then we will see together what happens with this tape, because I've used this tape like 5 or 6 times today. I do know that when you tear off tape, even if it's good tape that's not supposed to tear, they don't really suggest that you start tearing at an edge, but maybe pull it this way and come down sideways. Okay, so you see I've got some blue there. So a smaller brush, I guess, I would recommend. In a case like this, I would recommend a smaller brush. Okay? And then we will go ahead and do the one using the masks. But like I said, I just kind of wanted you to see this. So pulling sideways works, and I think I can probably vary that pretty well with the stamping of the snowflakes. But I just wanted you to see how that was done. All right, so now we have another piece of basic white paper that is 1/4 of a sheet of paper. I start with that, and we're going to put that down at the top, and let me get that up there where you can see for sure. Okay. And then we'll get back to this and center. I think I'm going to need just a little piece of this tape. So I don't want this to wiggle back and forth, so I'll do a little bit here, and I know I'm going to be cutting off some of that too, so that should be fine. Okay, so again, towards the top. I just want to make sure I knew what side that was on. Towards the top, and then looking at these 2 points here, make sure that they're centered, and then we can press those down. All right, so now I'm going to, instead of using the Berry Burst and the purple that I used before, we're going to go for the Azure Afternoon. And so what I did with what I did with the Fresh Freesia, and the Highland Heather was that I came in and I did number 1 in the lighter color, and I did the whole thing in the lighter of the 2 colors. And I'm still going to hold this down even though there's some tape on it, because I don't want to trust that completely. And I'm not going to attempt to make this too dark. because when I come in with the next layer, which will still be Azure Afternoon, I will probably work a little bit harder to make that a tiny bit darker. I just do want to make sure that there aren't any big old like white spots showing. So we can lift that up and take a peek, and you can see what that looks like. All right, and we should be able to put that right back down and line it up. Oh, but I don't want to put it down. I want to get number 2. Alrighty, number 2. So we'll put number 1 aside, and now here is mask number 2. And so I really can see where this should go. I would know if something was wrong. If I tilted it that way, I'd be able to say, oh no, that's not right. So I can see that. Should be fine. So really what's different about this one is very minute, okay? There's just a few different things, including that these little branches or whatever they are coming out are much lighter. Thinner, I should say, much thinner than the previous ones. So I'm still using the Azure Afternoon, but I'm going to go over it all more times to make it a little bit more pronounced, and you'll see the difference between the previous layer. At least you should. That's the theory. I think these little heart things are just a little bit smaller. Everything's just a tiny bit smaller so that this will kind of look like it's shadowy or filled in a little bit in the center of each area. I like going in circles myself, but once in a while I find myself doing that too. I don't know why. All right, let's lift it up and see if we can see that difference yet or not. Okay, and you definitely can. Do you see that? Where there are darker areas. So I'm going to get rid of number 2 now. And before I forget, I'm going to get rid of my Azure Afternoon ink pad and get out the Blueberry Bushel ink pad, which is definitely darker, maybe not a ton darker. And I'm going to wipe off some of the Azure Afternoon, even though it really shouldn't matter. And then I'm going to get mask number 3. All right, this looks to me like it did shift. So I'm just, yeah, because this was the tape that was not so worn, or that was worn. All right, let's lift that up and just put it back down a little bit closer to the edge. I should still be able to figure out. So 3, as you can see, looks kind of pretty different. All right, but we can still see where it needs to be lined up. At least I hope we can. So these dots that come out are going to go right down the center of the, so you can see it on my other one. They'll go down, all the little dots will go right down the center of those branches. I know they're not branches because it's not a tree, but I'm not quite sure else what to call it. So I need to line those up so that they're going right down the center. And then these little things that look like tulips are going to go right at the bottom of these little ovals. So that's how I'm going to line that up. It's moving again. It's not going to work to line it up very well if it's moving. So let's see. All right, circles are lined up there. The little tulips are lined up there. I'm just calling them that for lack of a better word. Circles are lined up there. You just don't want to see any white looking through any of those particular spots, all right? So, Blueberry Bushel, darker color. Certainly not as dark as like a Night of Navy or something like that, but darker. All right, so again, I'm holding it down, not relying on the tape, because I think that would be a bad idea. So we're not doing any of these little branches or appendages or whatever at this point. We're only doing kind of embellishing in some spots that we didn't do before. All right, so let's lift that up and see what that looks like now. All right, so you can definitely see that. I see that I'm a tiny bit off center in a couple of spots. I think I can survive that, but I'm not thrilled about it, but that's what happened, I think, because the thing was wiggling a little bit. So I'm going to get rid of these 2 little pieces of tape. And since I know that even if it rips, it won't matter because I'm cutting a little bit of that each section off there, I'm going to tape this back down again on the top, because when I cut this to 4 by 5 1/4, I will be cutting off little bits of this anyway. All right. So now we're on to mask number 4. Okay. And now what's happening here is that the hearts are going to be on either side of these little oval sections, or this one here, and the dots, the bigger dots, are going to be on either side in between here. So I'm hoping to be able to line that up because I practiced it before and now I know what they're supposed to look like. So again, these little dots are going to line up with the center of those branches. Okay. And the hearts are going to be on either side of those little ovals. They shouldn't be touching it. I shouldn't see any blue through the hearts. I shouldn't see any blue through the dots. And the dots should go right up the center of the branches. And I think that looks good right now. All right. And I'm going to take, the Scotch tape is closer at the moment. I'm just going to take a little piece of Scotch tape and tape that down. Okay, so here we go again with the blueberry bushel the second time around. I don't know if any of you remember when the Stampin' Up! Stencils were kind of a brownish color, and I liked them very much then, but I didn't realize until we got these that those were actually kind of flimsy, and these new ones are so sturdy and so nice. I'm so glad that they changed them. And it may have been one of those things where they just changed manufacturers, and so they had to change them. I don't think anybody was complaining about the old ones, because typically if people are complaining, Stampin' Up! Listens. So there must not have been complaints. I'm guessing it just sort of happened by happenstance. Okay, so there we go. And isn't that pretty? And yes, it is all one color. It could certainly be done, well, two colors, similar tones. It could be done in multiple colors, I suppose. I don't know, that might get a little weird. So what we want to do now, again, I'm trying to peel away from the cut edge to prevent any tearing, not that it matters too much at this point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. There's not a lot of room for it here, but we'll do the best we can. Let's see, are you going to be able to see any of that? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, and we're going to put that down, and then we're going to get that big die that I had here, you know, like 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes, whatever it was. Did I set, oh, I set it back on the, I set it right back where it belonged. Imagine that. Never would have thought to look for it there. Okay, so we're just going to kind of keep turning that until I get it where it needs to be. Okay, so we want the little pointy part here, smack in the center of like the V at the top of the branch. I don't know. Is there snowflake language? Like, what is that called on a snowflake? Does anyone know? There probably is. Like, there's some scientific something for almost everything, isn't there? There probably is. All right, so again, I know I'm going to cut this, but I still want to be careful, so I'm going to use some of this tape that I thought was pretty well worn and wouldn't do any damage, and then I really want to make sure I'm on the paper. I feel like I could be slightly off in one spot, and this is a quarter sheet of paper. So instead of putting it over here, or over here, where it might land on part of the card that we want to keep, I'm going to put it on the very edges, hoping that that's a part that I'm going to end up cutting off anyway. All right, so we'll do that, and then we'll get the plate. I'm always looking for the plate, and it's always on my lap because that's where I put it. All right, we're going to hold the plate down with my thumb. Oh, wait, I want to even that out. Hold it out with my thumb just to keep it from doing any moving until it's hit the rollers. Okay. So yeah, you can tell that I was, hang on, let me get rid of this and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can tell that I was very close to the edge because it literally cut this part in half. So I just want to check, and it looks like the cutting was perfect and I didn't lose anything. So that's kind of what I was going for there. All right, so now let's see, what have I got going on here? I need, oh, it's right in front of me. Okay, I'm gonna say I need a base that matches this, and I had one. All right, so this is the Azure Afternoon cardstock, and I'm just gonna burnish that down so it will lay flat. You know, multiple options. One would be just to put it right here on the card, which I think is fine. It covers it up very nicely. You wouldn't want to mat it on white because then there wouldn't be any contrast. You could mat it on a piece of blueberry a piece of blueberry bushel, but given how close it is to the edges, I don't know if you'd see much of that anyway, so I'm just not sure how much that matters, to be very honest with you. Just not sure at all that it matters. I think it looks kind of nice here. Oh no, you know what we could do though? We could do a little tone on tone. How about if I get out my Azure Afternoon ink pad again, and how about if I find that stamp that has the little snowflakes on it, and how about if I just go around, I almost don't really need to do the middle, do I? How about if I just go around and stamp this kind of here, there, and everywhere, stamping off in some places and making sure to get the edges. And I'll turn my stamp around a little bit so it doesn't look like it's the same thing every minute, every time. Okay. So this is tone on tone. And so this looks pretty dark right now, but it should dry just a tad lighter. I think I do want to come in a little bit because there are those parts of the snowflake where you might see through the little spots. So I will just kind of go ahead and almost do the whole thing. No harm in doing that for sure. Let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, I think I got some blue ink on my fingers. Never fails. Let's just clean that up. Okay, yeah, you know what? I do like that better than just the plain. So there was that option or that. And I think I do like this better. All right, and I think it might also look nice if we popped it up. Okay, I think I got them all. Yep. Oh yeah, let's move it up. So what do you think about a sentiment? Do you think a sentiment on the bottom or on the top, or a sentiment going right across the snowflake? I kind of hate to cover up the snowflake. I think it's really pretty. So I think I'm going to go for moving it up. Until you press it down, it's good. You can still wiggle it a little bit and play with it. Once you do this, then you really have a bit of a mess if you try to take it up. But take your pick tool. The spatula end will do that for you. It will take it up. You'll rip your card front a little bit, but then you're going to cover it up again, presumably, so it shouldn't matter. Okay. Okay, that one doesn't make sense for there because that's kind of the innie. So sending you joy and many delights. Let's use that one, and I think I'll just go ahead and glue that down. Okay, sending you joy and many delights. And then on the inside, oh my gosh, I put my stamp pads down on top of the stamp, and yeah, it's quite stuck. Excuse me. All right, so this with family, friends, and long, peaceful nights. I kind of like that. And I didn't glue this down yet because if this got messed up and I glued it down, then I would be kind of in trouble. This way, if it's not good, I can just flip it over to the other side. Excuse me. It is tilting downhill a little bit, so I will try it one more time. Not promising that the next time will be any better, but we'll see. Sometimes I think, well, if I tilted down the last time, I'll tilt up a little bit and it'll be better. And then it's too far up. I think that's better. All right, so we're going to glue that right on the back before I forget which is the good side and which isn't. And hang on, before I do that, how about if we take that little stamp set, the little snowflakes again, and just do a little up here. And a little down here. Isn't that cute? Okay, now, because this is the side that went into the track or the gully or whatever you want to call it on the trimmer, sometimes there's like a little edge there, and just taking your bone folder smooths it out and it's all gone. Probably wasn't even visible to you, but I knew it was there and I could see it from where I am, so. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm all out or just clogged up. Okay, so that's card number 2. Actually, we almost have a card number 3, but the other one's slightly different. All right, so this was the one where I decided to get out the cherry cobbler. And one of my favorite combinations for Christmas cards, again, not saying for sure that this is a Christmas card. Sorry, I was really experimenting here, so this could almost be 2 more cards, but we'll see. So what I did, excuse me, was I wanted to use the big die that I just used a minute ago, that I've already misplaced. No, there it is. I wanted to use this big die to cut out the front of a card and then put this inside it. And what happened when I did it, did I even save it? Well, what happened when I did it was that the card ended up being so flimsy because of the way I cut it. So what I decided to do instead was, let's see if I can find it. Here we go. I decided to just make a card base of cherry cobbler. And then this is the exact same size as the card base. And if I wanted to, I could trim it a tiny bit, but then I still think we'd have that problem. I might trim just a touch off the bottom, because for some reason that seems to be the tiniest bit longer. If I trim anything off the sides, I don't think it's going to leave much. And I don't think I'll be happy with that, because that particular die really is large. So then my idea was to go ahead and glue this down on top of that. No, it's hanging off the edge just the tiniest bit. Ugh. Now I'm also pretty sure, like I've been doing this for years, I really should know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that if your card base was just a touch larger than the typical size, that it would still fit in the envelope. And I do mean a touch, like a 1/16 of an inch, or maybe, I don't even know if an 1/8 of an inch would work. So, all right, so I've trimmed off literally like a 1/16, maybe even a 32nd of an inch from each side there, just to make it fit a tiny bit better. And then I'm going to cover that up. So I want to get into the corners pretty good, and in these edges close to where the other card's going to go pretty good. But I can't get too far into these little sides here, because there's just not much room. I could put a couple of little dots here and there. So we're getting to the bottom of the glue bottle, and for whatever reason, when you get to the bottom of the glue bottle, it seems like the glue is thinner. So that means it's also a little oozier. Maybe it should be like shaken up every once in a while. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and put that on. And what I'm going to do is not worry about being too careful just yet. And I'm going to pick it up because it's so close to the edges, and I'm just going to kind of do this sort of a thing. And then a little bit of my zhuzhing that I like to do. Oh, I see what happened. It's so thin that it buckled a tiny bit. Okay, now we're good. And I got a little bit of glue here and there. Not too much. My glue eraser should take that off. So obviously that looks a little weird at the moment. But then we're going to take the crumb cake and just fit it right in there. All right. I think I want to assemble this. No, maybe not. Okay, I'm going to put the crumb cake in, and then I'll tell you what I was sort of thinking, and we'll find out whether I made a mistaken judgment or not. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Who knows? Who the heck knows, right? All right. Make sure that all the pieces are down in there. All right, and then I used this die here to cut out 2 of these. And I wasn't exactly sure where I was going there, to be very honest with you. I was thinking that I would put one on like that way, and then put this one on slightly offset. I also thought that I might possibly use the stamp in the center in red, and then put the crumb cake one on top. I think it would be 2 totally different looks, and to be honest, I'm not sure which I want to do. I like this just kind of like it is. And I know that this is a snowflake, but for some reason I'm thinking of some Native American, like Navajo design here. And I think it's just because of the design of the snowflake, and maybe the colors. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I'm sort of thinking of like things I've seen painted on the side of, teepees over the years, or I don't know. I do like that just like that, but how would I like it if the red was stamped in here? then I also think that since I already glued this down, if I mess up the stamping, then I'm really going to be annoyed with myself. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it this way, and then I may try one the other way too and post a picture of that. Now this would be a really good time for me to have my glue sponge and my silicone mat, but I don't have them here where I can reach them anyway. So I'm going to just do some tiny dots. I know that this would have been a really good time. How many times have you heard me say this? This would have been a really good time to use the adhesive sheets. And as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, I don't even know if I've ever used them on camera because I always forget about them when I'm doing something like this. I don't forget about them when I'm just doing something on my own. I don't think I've ever used them in classes either, to tell you the truth. I just keep forgetting about them. I should write myself a big note and hang it off my tripod that says, silicone sheets, don't forget. But this will work too. A little something might ooze out, but that's okay because the adhesive eraser really does do a pretty amazing job. And it does not tear up your paper. I mean, unless you're going crazy with it. Then it might. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Oh, I forgot a whole section, probably because my fat thumb is on it, huh? Okay, oh, that's big. That was big. And then I'll show you what I do, and I don't know why it works, but it does. Of course, now that I've said that, probably jinxed myself, but we'll see. I'm just going to spread a little bit more around where it's probably dried already because it was on so thin. All right, so I take it and I put it where I want it. That looks pretty good. And then even though there's some glue oozing out, I will take a piece of paper, this is like a whole pack of paper from who knows when, and I'll rub it down because it's a good way to get even coverage rubbing without worrying about hitting any of the delicate stuff with your finger. And the paper doesn't stick to it. Now, I don't know why, because it seems like if there's stuff oozing out, the paper should stick to it, but it never has. I don't know why. And I'm not complaining, and I'm not asking why. And then I do like that. I really do like that a lot. And I think it's going to stay down, too. So what I could do, because it won't stick to the glass mat, is right before I'm all done here, I could flip it over and let it sit there. So now this is not liner size. So let me see, I think I have an extra one up here. So this can be my liner, and what would I want on my liner? You know, actually, I didn't get crumb cake out, but I have an idea. Hold that thought. I have an idea. Now, sometimes my ideas are scary, but I think this will work, and I've done it before. It's been kind of cool. So I'm going to take the big stamp, and I'm going to put it down because it's a big stamp. I'm going to get that out of the way so I don't do anything to it. And I'm going to ink the big stamp up in the crumb cake. Crumb cake is always darker than I expect it to be. And I don't know, it's been a color since I've been a demonstrator. It was a color when I was a customer. Crumb cake has just never gone away. And I honestly hope it never does. But it always ends up being darker than I anticipate it being, and I don't really know why. So I'm going to stamp it off once on this piece of paper. See, that's dark. That's brownish, and that's not what I want. Now I'm going to stamp it off once on my card liner. Let that sit there for a second. Close that up. Okay, we're going to do it on the other side. Do you see where I'm going, though? I want you to be able to write over it. You could write over that because it's light enough, but it has to be even or it won't work. So we'll flip that over in a minute and try it again. The other thing that you have to remember when you're doing the stamp off thing is that your ink pad has to be inked up, or your stamp has to be inked up evenly, or else the stamp off won't be even, and you have to stamp off evenly, if that makes sense, like put even pressure, because otherwise some of it will be too light like it was just there. All right, but I know I want to stamp off, so I'm going to try to stamp off a little bit more lightly. Well, I don't know about that either. if I stamp here and press down a little bit more, will that take care of that issue? I just don't know. Okay, I'm okay with that. It's a little light over there, but I really am okay with that. So now you can actually, if you're using like a black pen or something like that, or especially like a black felt tip pen, I think you could write right over that, and I think that looks nice. Not everybody would agree, and that's okay. If you don't like it that way, by all means, don't do it. But I think it'll be okay, and I think it's kind of cool when you do that. Sometimes it's done even lighter than that, though, and I'm not quite sure how to get that even lighter than that. Maybe my ink pad needs to be juicier. Maybe it needs inking. And I do love Cherry Cobbler. I like it so much better than Real Red, but I know that there are some things that just need to be Real Red. But on the whole, I do like it better. Now, if I had a super steady hand and I had a Stampin' Write marker in this color, I could come in and fix that, but I find with things like that, sometimes if you fix them, you just kind of end up messing it up. So sometimes it's better not to. Okay, so there we go, outside and inside, and sentiment, right? Sentiment. So, because I did these in Cherry Cobbler intending to use them here, didn't I? That one didn't stamp very well, though. And that one is the innie, not the outie. So how about something totally different? And then this could be a Christmas card. Joy to the World, just over here in the corner. And I like to do this offset thing a little bit, although you're not going to really notice it here because of the Cherry Cobbler there. So that might just be kind of a waste. All right, I think we got it. And I do like the way that looks, but hang on. I think I might like to, where is it? I just think I might like to, so what I'm doing is I'm taking a Crumb Cake ink pad. Yeah, you know, I can tell that ink pad does need re-inking because I'm having to work at it to get the ink on the paper. And I'm just going to kind of go around. You could do this with your sponge daubers. You could do it with the blending brushes, although I think for this the daubers work better. The blending brush might end up getting ink where you don't want it. And then you want to be careful as you're doing this. If you are getting ink on your fingers, which you probably will, you want to be sure that you're not transferring that onto the center of your sentiment. Okay, I think I'm going to like this. I think I just like that little touch of something just to sort of make that pop a little bit. Oh yeah, I like that. I do. I don't think I have any. I do have some gems. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to find the ones I have because I want to use ones that are current. So if I use them, you can actually find them and buy them if you'd like to. All right, so completed cards. We've got this one, and excuse me for reaching, and this one. And they certainly are three very different cards. Although I have to say, this is still my favorite. There's just something about that combination of Cherry Cobbler and Crumb Cake that I've always just loved. I don't know. It's certainly not as cheerful as this or this, but I like it. So those are the three cards. And then I did start one of these, so I probably will finish that so you can see what that one looks like in a different color scheme. And then this is the one I did off camera, kind of like that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to cut that off because I did this on a small piece. So this one may just have to be different and be like that instead. Or maybe I'll do something different with like rounding the corners, because I used to round the corners on some of my cards and I don't do that anymore. So that's something else to remember. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I will see you 1 week from tonight. It'll still be October, right? Yes, it will. All right, I'll see you 1 week from tonight, and you have a great week, and hope you catch me on the replay if you weren't here tonight. Thank you, Nancy, for watching.